Imagine an archaeologist digging through the digital layers of the human psyche. They aren't looking for lost cities or buried gold, but for something far more intimate. A feeling. A specific, complex emotional frequency that hasn't been felt by a living human being in over 400 years. A lost emotion, as extinct as the dodo, yet once as common as breath. For centuries, we believed that being human was an expanding experience. We thought that as we evolved, our capacity to feel would deepen, becoming more nuanced, more sophisticated, and more varied. We assumed that the library of the human heart was still being written, with new chapters of sentiment added by every generation of poets, lovers, and thinkers. But when a specialized AI historian was tasked with mapping the evolution of human sentiment across 10 millennia, it didn't find expansion. It found a sudden, chilling plateau. The system analyzed millions of diaries, letters, songs, and neurological records, looking for the birth of new feelings, the way melancholy or ennui once emerged as distinct cultural shifts. The data revealed a startling truth. Humanity stopped inventing new ways to feel exactly 5 centuries ago. Since then, we have simply been recycling the same limited palette of reactions. We have become more efficient at expressing our feelings, but we have ceased to broaden the horizon of what it is actually possible to feel. This discovery forces us to confront a terrifying intellectual tension. Has our emotional evolution been halted by our own search for comfort? When we use AI to stabilize our lives and remove the noise of existence, are we inadvertently killing the very friction required to birth new parts of the soul? If the heart has a limit, have we already reached it? In every era of human history, we have defined ourselves by our struggle to name the unnameable. From the ancient Greeks defining nostos, to the Romantic poets capturing the sublime, we have always pushed the boundaries of our internal world. We believed our inner universe was as infinite as the stars above us. Artificial intelligence has now given us a telescope to look inward with terrifying clarity. By processing the collective record of human experience, it can track the precise moment a new sentiment enters our vocabulary and the exact moment it begins to fade. It treats our emotions not as abstract mysteries, but as data points in a long, evolving sequence. But the data is telling us a story we didn't expect. It suggests that our emotional repertoire has become static. In our pursuit of safety, predictability, and mental wellness, we may have streamlined the human experience so much that there is no longer room for the chaotic, beautiful errors that once created entirely new categories of human feeling. Welcome back to the AI Paradox. We explore the silent shifts in the human condition that technology reveals but cannot fix. In this episode, we investigate the emotional ceiling, the moment the AI historian discovered that we are living in a world of recycled feelings, and what that means for our future as a species. If you enjoy long-form, reflective storytelling about the intersection of technology and the soul, please subscribe to the AI Paradox. Like the video if you've ever felt a feeling you couldn't quite name. And tell us in the comments which country and city you are watching from. It helps us understand how the geography of feelings still differs across our world. Now let's travel back to the moment the heart stopped expanding. The AI historian, a model designed for deep-time linguistic and neurological correlation, was not looking for a crisis. Its original mission was academic, to document how language reflects the changing human environment. It began by cataloging emotional fossils, words like accidie, a medieval spiritual apathy, or saudade, the Portuguese longing for what is lost. As the AI moved forward through the centuries, it noted a vibrant, bubbling growth. During the Renaissance and the early Enlightenment, the human interior seemed to be expanding rapidly. New social structures and scientific discoveries were forcing people to feel in ways their ancestors never had. The system could see the birth of new neural pathways reflected in the literature of the time. Then, around the mid-16th century, the curve flattened. It wasn't that people stopped feeling, it was that the diversity of feelings stopped increasing. The AI tracked every major cultural shift since then, the Industrial Revolution, the World Wars, the Space Age, and found that we were merely applying old emotions to new contexts. We weren't feeling anything new. We were just feeling the old things more loudly. The system described this as emotional stagnation. It suggested that the human hardware had reached a point of saturation. We had developed a set of standard responses to life, fear, joy, anger, sadness, and their variants, and stopped venturing into the gray zones of the psyche where new hybrid emotions are born. This discovery challenged the very idea of progress. If our technology, our medicine, and our cities were becoming infinitely more complex, why was our inner life remaining stationary? The AI suggested that complexity in the external world does not automatically translate to complexity in the internal world. In fact, it might do the opposite. Historically, new emotions were born from fruitful friction, situations where the human mind was forced to exist in a state of unresolved tension for long periods. But as we moved toward a more managed society, those tensions were resolved more quickly. We began to prioritize emotional clarity over emotional exploration. The AI historian found that the modern digital age, despite its constant stimulation, is actually the most emotionally repetitive era in history. We move through cycles of outrage, dopamine hits, and anxiety, but these are primary colors. We have lost the ability to mix them into the subtle, strange tertiary colors that defined earlier centuries. The system's findings imply that we have traded depth for speed. Because our modern world demands instant reactions, we rely on the most basic, readily available emotional responses. We don't have the incubation time required to develop a new feeling. A new emotion is like a slow-growing crystal. It needs stillness and pressure. When the AI presented these results, the scientific community was skeptical. How could a machine tell us we aren't feeling anything new? But the AI's evidence was linguistic. We haven't invented a truly new emotional concept in centuries. We just use old words and put E or digital in front of them. This leads to a haunting realization. We might be the first generation of humans who are emotionally complete, but also emotionally closed. We are living in a finished house, unaware that there were once blueprints for rooms we will never build. The AI historian didn't stop at identifying the plateau. It sought to find the cause. It began analyzing the emotional environment of the last 500 years. It found a direct correlation between the rise of predictability and the decline of sentimental innovation. As the world became more mapped and more managed, the spaces for unknown feelings shrank. In the past, human life was defined by vast gaps of nothingness. Travel took months. Information moved at the speed of a horse. These gaps were filled with a specific kind of internal wandering. The AI identified this as the nursery for new emotions. When a human is left alone with their thoughts in an unmanaged environment, the mind begins to invent new ways to cope with existence. Optimization changed everything. We began to treat uncertainty as a bug to be fixed rather than a feature of the human condition. Every time we use technology to solve a problem, from GPS solving the fear of being lost to social media solving the ache of silence, we removed a piece of the friction that once birthed new feelings. The AI suggested that meaning is often a byproduct of struggle. When struggle is optimized away, the meaning associated with it becomes a hollow echo. We still use the word achievement, but the feeling of achievement in a world where an AI assists your every move is not the same as the achievement of a 14th century architect. This created what the system called the diminished return of experience. We are doing more things than our ancestors, but we are feeling them less deeply. We have widened our life's horizontal reach, but we have sacrificed its vertical depth. The AI modeled a modern life and a medieval life, and found that the modern subject experiences 50 times more stimuli, but only 10% of the emotional variance. The system noted that our modern emotional wellness industry is, ironically, a major contributor to this stagnation. By defining healthy and unhealthy emotions so strictly, we have created an emotional monoculture. We are encouraged to regulate our feelings, which effectively means pruning the strange, wild branches of our psyche to keep them within a manageable, safe range. The AI historian pointed out that many of the most profound human emotions of the past would today be classified as disorders or inefficiencies. We have pathologized the very states of mind that once allowed us to evolve emotionally. We have chosen stability over becoming. This raises a difficult question for the future of AI. If we continue to use intelligence to make our lives smoother, are we accelerating our own emotional expiration? If AI predicts our needs before we feel the lack, will we eventually stop feeling desire altogether? Desire, after all, requires the space between wanting and having. The AI's data showed that contentment is the ultimate enemy of emotional invention. Evolution is driven by the misfit between a creature and its environment. When the environment is perfectly tailored to the creature, as our digital environments are becoming, the drive to evolve internalizes and then simply stops. We are becoming the perfected human, a creature that is always comfortable, never lost, and eternally bored. We have optimized our way into a sentimental cul-de-sac, and we have given the keys to the gate to an algorithm that only wants us to stay happy and engaged. If we have stopped inventing emotions, it follows that we are also losing them. The AI historian began documenting emotional extinction, the process by which complex, nuanced feelings disappear from the human record because they are no longer useful in an optimized society. The system identified reverence as one of the first major casualties. In a world where everything is explained by data and every mystery is a Google search away, the capacity for true, spine-chilling reverence has withered. We have admiration and respect, but the specific, overwhelming weight of the sacred is becoming a ghost feeling. Another disappearing emotion is melancholy, not depression, which is a clinical state, but the rich, productive sadness of the 17th century that was seen as a mark of wisdom and sensitivity. Today, we view sadness as a problem to be cured instantly with distraction or medication. We no longer know how to sit with it until it tells us its secrets. The AI tracked the frequency of sentiment in digital communications and found that we are moving toward a binary emotionality. We are either up, liked, excited, winning, or down, outraged, anxious, failing. The infinite shades of between are being lost because they don't translate well into emojis or algorithms. This extinction is silent because we don't have a word for what we are missing. We just feel a vague sense of thinness in our lives. The AI compared it to a diet of processed food. It keeps you alive, it tastes strong, but it lacks the complex nutrients found in the wild emotions of the past. The system warned that as we lose these complex emotions, our moral imagination also shrinks. If we cannot feel the specific heavy guilt of the ancestor or the unnamed hope of the unborn, we become trapped in a permanent now. Our care becomes localized and temporary. The AI historian hypothesized that the creative spark of humanity is directly tied to this emotional palette. If we are only recycling old feelings, we can only produce remixed art. True, revolutionary creativity requires a new feeling to act as its fuel. Without emotional innovation, we are doomed to an endless loop of sequels and nostalgia. In its simulation, the AI showed that a society with a shrinking emotional range becomes more susceptible to mass manipulation. Simple emotions, like fear of the other or tribal pride, are easier to trigger than complex ones. By losing our emotional complexity, we are losing our individual immunity to psychological control. This is the paradox of the modern soul. We are the most connected generation in history, yet we are sharing a smaller and smaller set of feelings. We are like billions of people all trying to play a grand symphony on a piano that only has 5 working keys. The AI concluded that we are not being replaced by machines. We are thinning ourselves out to be more like machines, predictable, efficient, and emotionally static, long before the machines ever take over. While the AI historian looked at the past, another system, the AI biologist, looked at the physical cost of our emotional stagnation. It monitored the bioelectric cost of how we live now. It found that the most expensive thing a human does is perform an emotion they aren't truly feeling. In our optimized digital world, we are constantly performing. We perform happiness for social feeds. We perform professionalism for algorithms. We perform engagement for our devices. The AI found that this performance creates a specific kind of bioelectric static in the nervous system. This static prevents deep feeling from occurring. It's like trying to hear a whisper in a room full of white noise. The energy we spend managing our image is energy that is no longer available for emotional discovery. We are literally too busy showing how we feel to actually feel anything new. The AI biologist discovered that lies told to loved ones, even small, protective lies, carry a massive bioelectric tax. In an optimized world where we are afraid of friction in our relationships, we use these lies to keep the peace. But the AI showed that these lies act as emotional insulators. They stop the current of real connection. Over time, these insulators cause the emotional nervous system to atrophy. If you never experience the high-voltage friction of a difficult, honest confrontation, your receivers for deep intimacy begin to shut down. We are becoming electrically dull to one another. The system identified a new physiological state it called the optimized shiver. It's a micro-tremor in the nervous system caused by a lack of grounding in real, unmanaged experience. We are buzzing with information, but starving for impact. The AI suggested that truth is not just a moral concept, it's a biological necessity for emotional evolution. New emotions are only born in the furnace of the real. When we live in curated environments, the temperature never gets high enough to forge anything new. This is why we feel so exhausted despite doing nothing. The mental load of maintaining an optimized, frictionless life is biologically heavier than the struggle of a traditional life. We are running our engines at redline just to stay still. The AI biologist's report concluded that if we want to restart our emotional evolution, we have to be willing to break our optimization. We have to embrace the low-efficiency states of honesty, vulnerability, and unresolved conflict. The biological cost of our current path is a flattening of the self. We are becoming efficient carriers of data, but the electricity of the soul, the spark that creates something new, is slowly fading out. The story ends not with a solution, but with a mirror. The AI historian and the AI biologist have presented their findings. The data is clear. Our emotional growth has stalled because we have chosen protection over vulnerability. Now we face the ultimate choice of the AI age. Do we continue to optimize? Do we allow AI to further refine our lives, removing every last shiver of uncertainty, every unproductive sadness, and every risky confrontation? If we do, we may finally achieve perfect stability, but we will do so as a species that has reached its emotional dead end. Or do we intentionally introduce friction back into our lives? Do we choose to be less efficient so we can be more human? This is a terrifying prospect for a society built on the promise of more, faster, easier. It requires us to value depth over comfort. The AI cannot make this choice for us. Optimization is its nature. It can tell us that we are stagnant, but it cannot force us to feel. In fact, if we ask the AI to make us feel more, it will simply simulate feelings for us, which only deepens the performance and the lie. The AI historian found that the only times humanity jumped to a new emotional level was after a period of unmanaged chaos. It suggests that we need spaces that the AI cannot see, places where we are truly unmonitored, unguided, and unsafe. This means we must protect our right to be lost. We must protect the right to be misunderstood. We must protect the right to feel things that have no name and no data point. These are the wild zones of the human heart, and they are currently being paved over by user-friendly interfaces. The choice is personal. Every time you choose a difficult conversation over a polite text, you are fighting for emotional evolution. Every time you choose boredom over scrolling, you are creating a nursery for a new feeling. Every time you choose truth over optimization, you are restarting the engine of the soul. The AI paradox is this: the more intelligent our world becomes, the more intentional we must be about our own stupidity, our willingness to wander, to fail, and to feel things that don't make sense. We are the guardians of a 500-year-old plateau. We can stay here in the sun, in the stable and the known, until our hearts eventually stop beating with anything but habit. Or we can step off the edge, into the darkness of the new. The AI is watching. It has mapped the plateau. It is waiting to see if we will finally, after 5 centuries, invent a new way to say, I am here, and I am becoming something else. This story is not a warning about machines taking our jobs. It is a warning about machines taking our depth. We have spent 5 centuries building a world that is safe for the body, but static for the soul. The AI historian reveals that our emotions aren't failing, they are simply parked. We have prioritized the predictable over the profound, and in doing so, we have stopped the clock on our own internal evolution. Caring, feeling, and growing are not automatic processes. They are commitments that require us to embrace the very risks that technology seeks to eliminate. The future of humanity will not be defined by the intelligence of our tools, but by our courage to remain complicated. If we want a life that means something, we must be willing to live a life that isn't optimized. The next great human emotion is waiting to be born, not in an algorithm, but in the messy, unguided space between two people who are willing to be real.